Thank you very much, Fiona, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you tonight, and thank you to Martyn for the invitation to be here at this very special night to just give some further impetus to an already very active campaign to make sure Martyn wins at the Scottish Parliament elections next May. Before I get on to talk about Martyn, I want to begin by expressing my warmest thanks to Michelle for serving the people of Falkirk East so faithfully in the last Scottish Parliament, and to wish Michelle every success as she stands down from the Parliament in May of next year. So thank you, Michelle, for all that you have. And it's a pleasure to be here to support Martyn, because Martyn's election in the Scottish Parliament elections in May is absolutely crucial for us achieving our political objectives as a party and to make sure we can win independence, because the results in May will be critical to determining the future of our country. I'm positioning the arguments in a way to make sure that we are able to advance the argument for independence, but we will only be able to advance the arguments for independence if the Scottish National Party does phenomenally well at the parliamentary elections next May, and that's what we've all got to make sure is the case to do so. And Fiona's absolutely right, Martyn is a proficient activist and organiser within this party. He knows how to run and to win elections and to be electorally successful, and I know that Martyn will give every single thing that he possibly can do to make sure he is successful in May of next year, and that you are successful in May of next year. And as your party leader and as First Minister, I need Martyn to be elected next May. So I just ask you, in all that you do tonight and what you contribute financially and what you're able to do more importantly in the days and the weeks to come after this evening's event, is that we are successful in that election, because the future of our country depends on exactly that. And if you want to have a sense about what participating in an election can achieve, I want to cite the example of what's happened just in the last couple of weeks in Stirling. And Josh Fyvie, our successful candidate in the Stirling East by-election, is here tonight, and I'm delighted to see him here tonight. And for the second time this week, I'm going to profoundly embarrass him by what I'm about to say. But Josh Fyvie was our candidate in the Stirling East by-election and was successful, and we now find ourselves in the position of holding 3 out of the 3 seats in the Stirling East ward, and that's a consequence of really diligent work by the SNP in that area. But Josh was able to be successful in the by-election. So the first thing that happened with that is that we all got the boost and the benefit of the electoral success of Josh Fyvie in that by-election. But something else happened as a consequence of that. What happened was that the SNP became strong enough to work with others to oust a total cabal that had been running Stirling Council. Josh Fyvie won, and the SNP ended up taking over Stirling Council as a consequence. So if anyone ever says to you, what's the point of taking part in electoral politics? The point of it is that you can win, and you can change things, and you can improve things, and Stirling's going to be a better place because Josh Fyvie got in, and we won a by-election, and we won control of the council. And the moral of the story is winning matters. Winning matters big style, and winning matters for us in May of next year. So my appeal to you tonight is that you do everything you possibly can do to make sure that Martyn Day is elected as the MSP for East Falkirk and Linlithgow. Yes, I got there. We never got to keep up to date with all these boundary changes. But I know Martyn well. Martyn was an extraordinarily good MP for Linlithgow. He had a long track record as a councillor. He knows how to serve the people he represents, and he knows how to speak up on the issues that matter to the people he represents, and he knows how to speak up on behalf of our party. So you have an absolutely outstanding candidate in Martyn Day, and I want you to make sure Martyn gets elected to be part of my team in the Scottish Parliament after the Scottish parliamentary elections next May. That's what we've got to achieve. Please make sure that happens. And since I've got the floor, we've also got David Linden here, who's standing for us in Glasgow, Shettleston and Baillieston, am I right? Yeah. Something like that. And Polly Stafford standing for us in Bathgate. And I think that's all the candidates that I've got here. And oh, of course, yes, and Dents is standing in Strathkelvin and Bearsden. So we've got three, and of course, well, I'm standing in Pershing North as well, just to complete the picture. So we've got strong candidates, a great team, and we're determined to make sure that we'll be successful. And I'm very, very optimistic about our prospects and what lies ahead for our party. When I took over as party leader 18 months ago, we had a mountain to climb, and we've knuckled down, we've come together as a party, we've refreshed our internal democracy, we've got good, strong internal democracy. We just had a fabulous conference. We had a big debate about our party strategy. I wasn't frightened to debate these issues with the party about what's the best way forward. We all did it with courtesy, with respect to each other, respecting the intelligence of everybody's arguments, and the party put their hands up in the air, took their hands down, and we decided what our position was. And that's what internal democracy should be like. And I brought that into the heart of the party, so we take good decisions that then bind us together as a group of people. And unity and cohesion are absolutely fundamental to what lies ahead for us and how we can achieve our objectives. And unity and cohesion are not words you would use about the Labour Party just now. Anna Sarwar thought it was a good idea on Thursday. I am literally mystified by the grounds that these guys think they should take me on about on a Thursday. The week before, Michael Mara decided, the putative Labour finance spokesman, the prospective Labour finance secretary, decided it was a good idea to take me on at First Minister's questions about the government's annual underspend as part of the annual accounts. Now,
thank you. Question number 6, Michael Mara.
To ask the First Minister what the Scottish Government's response is to the Auditor-General's report 24-25 audit of the Scottish Government consolidated accounts, which indicates a £1 billion underspend by the Scottish Government. First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I welcome Audit Scotland's unqualified opinion and the points raised by the Auditor-General, which recognise the underspend does not represent a loss of spending power to Scotland.
Michael Mara.
This knackered SNP government's handling of the public's money is a disaster for Scotland, and the Auditor-General could not be clearer on that point. Labour has delivered an additional £5.2 billion for Scotland's services.
Let's hear Mr Mara.
Mr Swinney ludicrously labelled that a continuation of austerity. We now know that he underspent that budget by £1 billion, while 1 in 6 Scots suffer in pain on NHS waiting lists. First Minister, where on earth has the rest of the money gone?
Through the chair, always. First Minister.
If that was an explanation of the intellectual capability of the aspiring Labour Finance Secretary, then Scotland has got a lot of trouble coming its way if Mr Mara is anywhere near the public finances. Mr Mara has been a member of this Parliament. Indeed, he's a member of the Finance Committee. He should have some idea of what he's talking about, but he's just demonstrated to Parliament he doesn't have a clue about the public finances. Not a single penny of the underspend announced in the annual accounts of the Scottish Government, which I repeat were unqualified, which is the case for every single year of this government's term in office since 2007-8. Every year an unqualified opinion, and Mr Mara doesn't understand that the resources that are contained in the underspend are all used in this current financial year, all allocated supporting the reductions in waiting lists that I'm presiding over, providing for the expansion of social security, including the Scottish Child Payment, and also just for absolute completeness to Mr Mara, £247 million of the underspend cannot be used for public services in Scotland because it's part of the United Kingdom's control of the budget. So I suggest Mr Mara goes away and gets a book about elementary accounting before he asks me any more questions.
Thank you.
They want to govern our precious country. So don't be surprised if you hear me every single week in life saying to my Labour opposite numbers, who are the putative challengers to be the next government of Scotland, that if people in this country want to know what a Labour government would be like in Scotland, they just have to look at the conduct and the actions of the Labour government in Westminster and say, we don't want a Labour government after this election, we want an SNP government after this election. And our message to people in Scotland has got to be much more than just we're somehow different or better to the Labour Party. Our message to the people of Scotland has got to be about the prospects of our country being the best they possibly can be. Now, we're in a community here in Grangemouth which has faced enormous hardship as a consequence of the closure of the refinery. And I want to assure you that you have a government that has done everything that we possibly could do. What would have helped in our endeavour would have been a Labour government coming into office and actually fulfilling what Anna Sarwar stood beside me on the television and said would happen.
Would you step in to save the refinery?
We would step in to save the jobs at the refinery and to invest in that transition by making an energy transition hub at Grangemouth, and we would put hundreds of millions of pounds behind it.
Put hundreds of millions of pounds we would put on the table to safeguard the future of the oil refinery at Grangemouth. And that did not happen from the Labour Party. So if people in this community want to understand what is the point of voting for the Labour Party, quite simply point to the promise of Anna Sarwar to protect the Grangemouth refinery, point to its closure and say Labour don't deliver for the people of Grangemouth. While as we look around Europe, as we look at countries that are prospering when standards of living in the United Kingdom are stagnating, we can see that our European neighbours have a great combination at their disposal. They've got the combination of independence, the ability to determine their own future, and they've got the combination of membership of the European Union. And Fiona was right. We've done lots of good things using the powers that we have in Scotland today. Child poverty is falling in Scotland when it's rising in every other part of the United Kingdom. Why? Because of the actions of your SNP government. Our decisions to introduce the Scottish Child Payment is bringing down child poverty in this country, but it's rising everywhere else. We're seeing young people delivering greater performances in our education system and going on to good outcomes as a consequence of our investments. We have young people going to university not paying tuition fees. We have been building more affordable houses than any other part of the UK. So we've done great and bold things, and Fiona listed a whole host of the achievements that, as an outstanding Cabinet Secretary, she's delivered in transport. But we need to be hoping and working to build the very best future for Scotland, and that can only come if we equal our European neighbours with that golden combination of yes, independence, yes, membership of the European Union, but also using the outstanding opportunity we have of our natural environment to use our low-cost renewable energy to power the economic regeneration of Scotland in the future. So we are a very fortunate country to have the combination of the prospect of independence, the prospect of rejoining the European Union, getting into that trading bloc to strengthen our economy, and the prospect of having low-cost renewable energy that can power our future and the energy needs of our country into the future. So that is the hopeful and optimistic prospect of independence. And people, of course, will say to you, well, is that possible? Is Scotland strong enough to be able to do that? Are we economically strong enough to do it? Well, this week we had a revelation in that respect, because we took a risk as a government. I commissioned our government to go out to the market and ask the credit rating agencies, the agencies that decide on the economic prospects of countries through their borrowing requirements, to test the strength of Scotland. And what did they say? The two of the most prestigious ratings agencies in the world, Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and we asked them, where stands Scotland? If Scotland went to the market to borrow money, what would the market say? What did they say? They said, we have a strong and diverse economy in Scotland. They said that we have strong financial management and fiscal arrangements. They said we have strong institutions. Now, when I raised all of that in Parliament on Thursday, my opponents guffawed and laughed and doubted us. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that our opponents cannot celebrate one moment of good news about Scotland. Not one moment. And Wednesday night, when these ratings were announced, and Thursday morning when I briefed the press about it, I called it a proud day for Scotland, because it demonstrates to everybody in the international community that this is a strong economy. This is an economy in a country that's got a government that exercises strong financial management, and we've built, as a result of the actions of your SNP government, the financial architecture that is necessary for this country to be independent. So when George Fawkes said that we went around doing things deliberately to improve people's lives, he was absolutely right. It was completely and utterly, I admit it, it was completely and utterly deliberate what I was doing to build the economic credibility of this country, to demonstrate that we could handle money safely and effectively on behalf of the public, and that we would build the institutional architecture, whether it's about financial management or about delivery of social security services, that would make it easy for this country to become independent. And we've been doing it while George Fawkes has been sleeping in the House of Lords on the QT without telling anybody. We've been doing it. So those announcements this week, I know it might sound kind of dry, it might not sound like something on a doorstep which people will be captivated about the credit rating agencies. But let me just say to you, that is a massive vote of confidence in the credibility of our country and our ability to be independent into the market. That's what it's all about. And it counts in building the strength and credibility of Scotland. Now, one of the other reasons why I want Scotland to be an independent country is because I want us to be able to be, go back to 2014, there were three big arguments that were used which were difficult for us to overcome. One was about, would we be able to be strong enough economically? And of course, the United Kingdom has shown its economic weakness. They told us we would have our guaranteed seat in the European Union, and we couldn't guarantee that. Well, we've lost that because of them, not because of us. We voted to stay in the European Union. And the third thing was that they said that the UK was a respected voice in the world. And I don't know about you, but over the tragedy that has been Gaza, I have not thought the United Kingdom was a respected voice in the world, not one bit of it. And I've given leadership to our stance on Gaza, which I'm very proud of, and which I think is in alignment with the values and the aspirations of our party and our country. But I've also had an experience in the last few weeks which has had a colossal impact on me. I spent a week in Malawi and Zambia seeing the international development programmes that have been funded by the Scottish Government for the last 20 years. And Fiona is a very distinguished minister who took forward many of these programmes for us in the past. And I went out there and I was humbled by the effect of Scotland's contribution to people and communities much, much, much less fortunate than us. Now, there'll be voices that say we shouldn't be spending that money. We shouldn't be thinking about the needs of others in other countries. But I think it's part of that responsibility to be good citizens in the world, to be a country that's a positive voice in the world, for us to act in a way that supports people in these communities and helps to make their lives better. I think it's part of our duty as human beings. And I don't think, and when we take those steps, the Labour Prime Minister is making a virtue out of cutting international development programmes. And what that says to me is that if we want to have be a respected voice in the world, if we want to be able to hold our heads up high on the issues that matter to people around the globe, then Scotland needs to be an independent country to enable us to do exactly that. And that will make us feel that we are exercising our proper and full obligations as good global citizens if we do that. But we can only do it. But we can only do it if we're independent. And we can only become independent if our wonderful party does phenomenally well in next May's election. And I'm very optimistic that we're ready to do phenomenally well in next year's election. We've strengthened the party, we've got trust back with the electorate, the people are now listening to us, we can go to doors and people want to talk to us. They want us to impress them again. They want us to say to them, what are we going to do to make their lives better? Because it's been tough for people. Tough, not because of things that the Scottish Government has done, but because of the mistakes that have been made in the United Kingdom. Austerity, that is damaged and is damaging our communities, a product of Westminster. Brexit, damaging our communities, a product of Brexit. And we've got to say to people the way out of that for Scotland is to be an independent country. And that will only come about if the SNP does phenomenally well. So my simple appeal to you tonight is this. Give everything you've got to our campaign. I'm giving everything I've got. Absolutely everything. Fiona said, I've spent more Friday nights with Fiona Hislop in the last month than I've spent with my own wife. That is a controversial comment, but it is the truth, because we've been on the road together at these different events. And tomorrow night I'm in Dingwall for Aileen Munro's adoption meeting. The following week, well, I can't quite remember where I am, but I'm somewhere. I'm in Hamilton, and I am in Island, and I'm in Pollock, and the week after that I'm in Angela Constance's land in Amond Valley, and it goes on and on and on. And I'm making no complaint about it, because I love meeting the party membership, and I love being out and about, sharing with our party members a message of hope and optimism about what lies ahead for our party and our country if we give it our all. And believe you me, I'm going to give it my all and invite you to do exactly the same. Make sure Martyn gets elected in May. Thank you very much.
I'm Martyn Day. I'm asking for your support in Falkirk East and Linlithgow. Vote for the candidate with experience and a reputation of fighting for you.